Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another show. Today I have Michael Rectenwald with me. Intensive background in academia, an author of many interesting books, and also the founder of ASPAC, the anti-APAC, if you will. We're going to talk about all of the background of Michael in this show, leading to ASPAC and also some of his books as well. Michael, thank you so much for joining me.
It's great to be here, Mahmood. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Let's begin with a little bit of background for those of you who don't know Michael. Who is Michael Rectenwald and what is his background?
Well, I could go back to my academic work. For example, I taught for 11 years at NYU in issue areas like literary studies, cultural history, and things like that. And as I said, I authored 14 books. Several of them have come after I left NYU, 6 to be exact. I had studied, and I still do, 19th century British science and culture. That was my academic area. It still is. I was basically run out of NYU when I went up against the sort of social justice crowd there. And it's a long story, so I won't go too far into it. But despite this, suffice it to say that they made my life miserable at NYU, and I left and became what we call a public intellectual as such, basically supporting myself with my books and my talks at different institutions and so forth. I became affiliated with the Mises Institute, which is a free market, anti-war, anti-state organization, and published a lot of articles there and did a lot of talks for them and other institutions and so forth. Then I had a fellowship at Hillsdale College, which is a small conservative college in Michigan, in the United States. And after I came out against Israel and what Israel was doing in Gaza, I was promptly canceled by Hillsdale College. They revoked my fellowship. I had a distinguished fellowship there. And then I also lost my publisher. My publisher threatened me a few times, saying, if you don't stop talking about Israel or criticizing Israel, we're going to drop you from our label, as it were. And I said, I will not stop, so go ahead. And they promptly did drop me. So I had lost my publisher. I lost my fellowship. This was quite a bit of money that I lost. And so I decided, I've decided long ago that I stand by principle, and I don't care where it lands me in a way. I will take it from there. I will stand for what I think is true and right and take the consequences of that. That's been my career. That's been the history of my career. I've been canceled by left, right, and center, really. And it doesn't matter. I'll just keep going.
Interesting. Would you mind going back slightly before we reach the recent cancellation about your views in relation to Israel? So what was it in short about the social justice that they didn't like about your criticism exactly?
No, that's a good question. So this was 2016, and the university was making some moves that I thought were very egregious. For one, they had instituted a bias reporting hotline with which the students could report their professors for microaggressions and any kind of insensitive language or anything that they said that upset somebody's self-esteem or whatever, microaggressions and bias infractions. And then they were also forcing us to put on our syllabus this bias reporting hotline, so students could report you anonymously, by the way, to this bias response team, which I found to be very much like a surveillance state they were setting up within the university. So I criticized that, and I criticized the no platforming, as it were, of speakers. Anybody, and by the way, at this time, I was a far leftist when I did this, when I made these criticisms. Anybody that didn't hold to their ideas, their sort of woke orthodoxy, was being canceled from speaking on campus. They were setting up what they call safe spaces on campus so students could get away from speech they didn't like. They even had petting animals and pacifiers at these safe spaces. Pacifiers for like the things they use for babies. I really was very critical of all this. I did an interview on with the student newspaper, and after that interview, all hell broke loose for me. In 2 days, I was called into the dean's office. They coerced me into taking a leave of absence. They removed me from campus just for criticisms of this social justice insanity that I was seeing. And then I was, when I came back from the leave, I was lambasted by a few, like 4 or 5 professors on email, on official email, calling me every name in the book: fascist, Nazi, sexist, misogynist, the whole 9 yards of all the things they say. And instead of punishing these professors, they punished me further. They moved my office to the Russian department, with which I had no association at all. Put my office in a small room with no books. They refused to move my books. They gave me no telephone service, no copying machine, nothing, no name on the door, nothing. In fact, they were trying to basically make me a total pariah on campus. I ended up suing NYU and 5 professors for that, and I ended up with a settlement over that. So I left NYU as part of the settlement.
Wow. So they didn't like your approach. They didn't like you questioning. Therefore, cancellation. I mean, cancellation was quite big at the time. We started to see the trend of canceling. Things are changing recently, but that was quite the peak of it. You know, there was a lot of division on both sides. And then you started to try and do your own path with your books. Let's talk about your books slightly.
Okay, sure.
Beyond Woke, The Great Reset, The Cabal Question, The Great Reset and the Struggle for Liberty, Unraveling the Global Agenda. What was that book about?
That's about, the Great Reset project inaugurated by the World Economic Forum in conjunction with the UN and their attempts to really completely reformulate the world economic system based on stakeholder capitalism. And it also involves all kinds of measures to, clamp down on behavior that was supposedly, hurting the environment and causing global warming, climate change and all that. And also the technologies that go along with that in the 4th Industrial Revolution, the digital ID, the CBDC, central bank digital currency, and all of these types of techniques that they're using or attempting to use to get the population completely under surveillance and control. And the population ethics that they have, which goes back to the UN's World Conferences on Population all the way back to the 50s. They've made no mistake that they believe the world population needs to be reduced, and especially in the so-called developed world. because in the developed world, people use too many goods. They consume too much. They use too much gas. They eat too much meat and all of these things. So they want to call the population, reduce it. And so the book deals with all of these aspects of the Great Reset and goes into the deep history of it as well as the contemporary manifestations.
And did the Cabal question, was that the book that started the problems?
No, that's the book I put out after the problem already came up.
Oh, okay. So we had the problem already. So
Yeah.
what, you started to be vocal against Israel's genocide in Gaza? Is that it?
Yes.
That's it. Okay.
That's it.
And then your publisher says you can't criticize Israel without you even writing a book about Israel yet.
No, I haven't written a book about Israel. The Cabal question's about what happens to a guy who becomes a historical revisionist and starts to look down certain rabbit holes that are prohibited. It isn't really about the rabbit holes per se, although they are explicated in the novel. It's a novel, by the way. But the real point of the novel is what happens to somebody who so-called, quote unquote, notices too much. And that's what the novel is. It becomes a spy thriller and an international intrigue that develops around this character.
And that came after you had that criticism against cancellation.
Yeah.
Now you're basically your second job, your attempt, your go at having an independent business, or making a basic living, is also under attack by them because of your criticism of Israel. And when did ASPAC, first let's talk about ASPAC slightly. Did ASPAC come after this or before that?
After I found that it's AZAPAC, by the way, AZAPAC.
Oh, AZAPAC. Yeah. Sorry about that. AZAPAC, Anti-Zionist America PAC.
That's right.
Political Action Committee.
Political Action Committee. Yeah, that's correct. AZAPAC came after these cancellations. I decided that I couldn't sit back and watch in horror the atrocities being committed using American weapons and dollars. I was beyond indignant about this, but feeling helpless for 2 years as this onslaught continued, and realizing that tweeting about it and podcasting about it and speaking about it was not going to do anything. I needed to take action, and I decided to found this PAC in August this year. It just started in August, and it's already well off the ground. We filed with the FEC. We filed with the IRS. We're legitimate. It's a legitimate political action committee until maybe at which time the Trump administration attempts to declare it illegal, which is possible because they're trying to associate it. They may try to associate it with anti-Semitism and then use the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act to shut us down. That's possible. But we'll fight that all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary.
Well, they're going through with the Esther project now.
Yes,
Project Esther, under the excuse of battling anti-Semitism. What do you think about Project Esther?
I think it's basically the completion of the Zionization of the American government is what's being attempted there. I've read the Esther report, and it's a long series of actions that the government should take to shut down speech, in particular anti-Israel speech, by conflating it with anti-Semitism, of course, which is their biggest technique. One of their major, as you very well know, I'm sure, is one of their major tactics for escaping, eluding criticism, and shutting down opposition. Calling you an anti-Semite is just their It's one of their shields and swords.
Mm.
As a matter of fact, I think it's both a shield and a sword. So yeah, this is AZAPAC. It's aza-pac.com. That's the website, aza-pac.com. We're up and running, and our object is to de-Zionize the United States government, to get rid
Ambitious.
of. It is very ambitious, but somebody's got to do it. I mean, it has to be done. It's, in a way, it's for the Palestinians in Gaza. In many, many ways, it's too late. But I couldn't stand by and do nothing. So I had to take action, and maybe we prevent future genocides. Maybe we prevent future unmitigated attacks by Israel on all of its neighbors, Lebanon, Iran, probably Iraq at some point. They already did order the war in Iraq in the first place, of course. So the billions of dollars that Americans are being extorted in order to support Israel is the real outrage that I'm using. So we're trying to unite left and right, because the left is very empathetic about the Palestinians. I am too. And they don't want to, they're against colonialism and all that. And the right is more interested in our national sovereignty. So we're combining both sides of that equation, because they all come from the same source. And that is the control of our government by Zionists, such that they extort billions of dollars from us to mass murder other people. That is an outrage, and that's what I oppose.
Absolutely. And I mean, we can't guarantee the outcomes of action, but what's important is the action itself. That's where some people get it wrong, I believe, by thinking that you're facing, well, a very heavily funded group of people who are very, very powerful, reaching very, very deep, and think, oh, well, what's the point, But I think it's through action like this where things make an impact. And I'll give an example. Track APAC. Track APAC, an organization that monitors exactly how much each American politician gets money from APAC. And that has proven to be extremely effective in the past couple of years because, well, number one, they are shortlisted. You're red if you're getting, APAC money, green if you haven't. That combined with the sentiment of the American people that is only growing stronger and stronger against the stronghold of Zionism inside of the United States, it proved to be effective. We started to see some people getting the money returned to APAC. People proudly declaring that I haven't gotten any money from APAC. We started to see a shift in the sentiment even towards Donald Trump, people who were fooled by Donald Trump, because we already have an experience with him if you monitored him in his first term and his relation with Israel. But now, of course, things became way too obvious for anyone.
Too obvious.
The fact, way too obvious. And now he's losing momentum within the right wing of the United States. And I think it's actually quite clever what you're doing in combining left and right, because although personally I'm against the labeling of left and right, I believe more in values, like, well, what do you actually call for, rather than identity politics and that's left and that's right. Because even if you take it from many Western governments, for example, you see a leftist government here, a right government there. They have the same policies, really.
And the same thing.
Nothing changed, man.
Yeah, I've said this. I don't really put much credence in the left-right axis. I think that the main axis to consider is the up-down axis, the vertical axis, the ruling class versus the people. And the ruling class, I don't mean this in a Marxist sense. I'm referring to those who control the state and state power. And that ruling class in the United States is a Zionist ruling class. So that's our enemy. That's our enemy. And it doesn't matter whether you're left, right, center, or outer space. we will welcome you into our fold to oppose it.
Absolutely. And have you had, and I know it's recently been established, you know, just several months. How do you see it so far? Are you approaching like politicians to come on your board, or is it more of a grassroots movement that you're aiming for to raise awareness?
It's we are a grassroots movement, and we haven't brought any politicians into our organization, but we are already funding several politicians who are running against real Zionist problems. Like, we're taking on Randy Fine in Florida. Yeah, the biggest Zionist in our government, and we're taking him on with a candidate named Aaron Brown, who's going to primary him. So we're supporting his campaign. And just to show that's a Republican, okay. But then on the other side of the so-called aisle, whatever, like I said, I don't really buy into left-right very much. I think values and principles transcend all that. But yes, we're funding and supporting a guy by the name of Jose Vega, who is an incredible powerhouse running against Richie Torres in New York. So this proves that our stance is nonpartisan. We don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, whatever. If you have a chance to win against one of these monsters, we're going to back you.
Well, that's quite an achievement so far, only in a couple of months. And I think it's so important to have people-funded politicians, because I've seen some of the profiles of the politicians in the United States who don't get money from AIPAC. And it's quite hard. It's quite challenging because, number one, you're going against very, very powerful people with a lot of money. And the sums are ridiculous. I mean, even what's published on Track AIPAC, for example, that might not necessarily be the full amount.
It's not.
These people have different ways in getting funds and getting money. And I heard multiple politicians in the United States. For example, one of them, I believe, he was pushed by AIPAC to run against, I think it was Rashida Tlaib at the time, several years back, being offered in the tens of millions. I mean, ridiculous amounts of money.
Yeah.
Do you believe at one point that as a PAC can reach a stage where it would be compelling enough, and of course not to make it all about money. It's absolutely not the case. But at the end of the day, these people, they need to be supported. The people who run and are facing mass bribery on the opposing side,
very much so,
they need to be supported, and there needs to be a grassroots movement, which is something that you're doing, a very, very important step. Do you think it can reach a level where it can start shifting the power from AIPAC?
Yes.
Do you see that happening in the next few years?
Yes, over the next few years. Now, I'm not saying that we'll be there by the midterms, 2026, but I think that, so we've looked at the numbers, and if we had 50 million Americans give us $5, that would be 250. I forget what that would be. What would
50 million giving you $50 or $25?
Giving us $5 each. That would be 250 million.
250 million.
250 million. Now we're already in the game. So, but we won't get 50 million Americans. So what we need is 1 million Americans to give us $250. And then we'll have the same money, and we'll be in the game big time. Now listen, if it were up to me, all PACs would be dissolved and we wouldn't have money in politics. It would be over. But this is the game in America. As you know, politics are run by cash, by money.
Yes.
It's a very unfortunate circumstance, but the one we're in. So It's the world we live in. It's the one we have to fight in. We have to struggle in, and the one where we need to overcome. So we're not shying away from reality. We're trying to take it on head on. And I think we're going to get, we're getting donations all the time. We're pulling together funds to pull these candidates, to give them some grounds to start attacking back against these monsters. We're going to run ads against Randy Fine. We're going to run some ads that are going to totally disgrace him. I can tell you right now, they're going to be disgraced.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have a lot of good opportunities with marketing against Randy Fine. All it takes is just a few images,
all right,
combined with quotes about starving the population in Gaza.
Yeah, yes, that's all it takes. Look at his own tweets are self-indicting. Unbelievable. All you have to do is show decent people what this guy has said. Because not everybody's on X or whatever or social media, but maybe a lot of his constituents don't know what an absolute horror this person. So this guy
abhorrent,
totally abhorrent.
I totally agree with your notion that money should be removed from politics, but I think this is where the pro-humanitarian side, if you may, gets it wrong, which is they don't understand the rules of power.
That's right.
Necessarily. Of course, the intention is there. Their hearts are set in the right path. They want what's good, but you can't just sit there and complain. And these people who are in control, they know how things go. They know how to get to that level of power, and they know that it requires a lot of money. Yeah. And that's where I believe that there should also be more awareness raised towards the people who oppose this, that, well, if they are using this tactic and they understand and they are backed by very heavy money, and in some cases it would be individuals, as we know, your Miriam Edelson with 100 or 200 million. What would they do if they are faced with like 1 million Americans, like you said, or 50 million Americans supporting the candidates on the opposing side, which is shifting? I mean, the momentum is shifting in the United States.
Definitely.
Very interesting input and very ambitious. And I do wish you the best of luck in that campaign.
Thank you.
Again, I just recently came across your organization. Some people, and we'll wrap up with this, I've heard a few people talking about in the next elections, in the next presidential elections in the United States, the demand would be, are you a Zionist or an anti-Zionist president? Do you think we'll get to that stage? And what is AZAPAC going to do to get that stage?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that stage is on the way, because look at, as you said, there's these candidates or office holders turning down AIPAC money because they know it's poison. So it's only one more step to say, not only am I turning down this AIPAC money, I'm anti-Zionist. And by the way, what we mean by anti-Zionist is this. We're only talking about it from the American standpoint, and that is, Zionism is the extortion of taxpayers and the bribery of the political class to benefit Israel. That's all it means to us. I don't care about whether there's a state of Israel in this. We're not anti-state of Israel as such, although I do believe with the removal of U.S. support, Israel will collapse. But that's not our object. Our object is to get rid of the occupation inside the United States, to get the Zionists out of office, out of power. And that's a different thing than saying we're against the state of Israel's existence. Although, as I said, I don't think Israel could stand very long without American support. That's why I started this, because I realized the United States is enabling Israel entirely. Of course, everybody knows if it weren't for the U.S., Israel would probably not be able to carry out its barbarity against its neighbors. It would be different. It would have to negotiate. It would have to be peaceful. It wouldn't be engaging in unmitigated and completely, violence that is completely at their own initiation. They would not do this. They would not initiate violence all across that region if they didn't have big USA bucks and bombs to back them up. And so I think it's, the object is American sovereignty, but the irony is, perhaps it is an irony, I don't know, that it would benefit the whole world if we could get rid of this.
Yes.
It would create a much better chance for peace. And I am very much anti-war, anti-interventionist. And so I think we do something for the United States citizens, and ironically, it helps the entire planet.
I totally agree with the final point that you mentioned. And although you're saying that you're focusing on the United States, I believe that people should understand the level of implication it has on Israel. From an Israeli perspective, the American support is vital to their existence. And therefore, by default, you will be affecting what happens all across the world, because this infiltration isn't just happening in the United States of America. We'll wrap it up here. Michael, thank you very much for joining me. I'll share some of the links of Michael's website and the organization as well, and some of your books as well, for our followers, viewers, and listeners. In the meantime, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in for another show, and we will see you soon in the next episode.